Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our second episode of Property Investing Decoded. I'm delighted to be joined by two very accomplished property professionals based in the UK. We've got Nitin Aggarwal, who's a tech entrepreneur, and he runs a company called Property Deals Inside. And he's doing some very, very exciting stuff in terms of how tech can make property investing better. And then we've got Vanessa Wakelin, who is a very accomplished, or one of the very few accomplished women in property I come across. So I really admire what she's doing. She started as a landlord. She calls herself the accidental landlord, but ended up being a full-time property professional. So I'm going to let Nitin and Vanessa introduce themselves one by one, and then we'll start the conversation we are scheduled to have today. Nitin, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashish, for having us here. And I'm really glad to be joined by Vanessa today. So as Ashish mentioned, I am Nitin Aggarwal. I'm the founder and CEO of Property Deals Inside. So we offer a platform which basically helps make life easy for property investors, and especially given the audience for today would be people who are interested in property investing. I think you might find it interesting. I actually come from a tech/corporate background, leading some of the largest programs in the world. I mean, very recently, I was actually involved in helping shape up the future of the entire UK payment industry. So it's almost like close to £100 billion program, which is going to take close to 10-15 years to roll out. But I've always had a passion for property investing, and I've been into investing myself for 14-15 years now. And initially launched the platform as my own back pocket utility, which basically was to help make my property decision making quicker. And I'm going to share a little bit more about it, but I think then we kind of launched it in a lot more scale. But I'll let Vanessa maybe share a bit about herself, and then we can have an interesting chat.
Thanks, Nitin. And again, thanks, Ashish, for having us. Great to be here today. So just to tell you a bit about my background, very right, accidental landlord. I actually refinanced my residential to then buy another property and then rented it out. So when I started, I had no clue what being a landlord really meant. I then acquired another buy-to-let, and all I knew at the time was really that it's good to have assets. I didn't know how to invest. I didn't know what to look for. I didn't know, how it all worked properly and what to consider. So I had my own career at the time in kitchen design. My husband has a property maintenance business, refurb maintenance. And as the kind of portfolio was growing in the background, and my husband was doing more refurbs for other investors, actually, we thought, well, why don't we just do this for ourselves? So we started getting involved in flips and development. And then through that, I attracted some overseas investors, which was great. And I started building their portfolios. And more recently, I met my business partner, Amir, and we set up private portfolio investments. And that's what we now do. We find portfolios and we match them up with investors. So hopefully that gives you a bit of background to myself.
Excellent. So very diverse beginnings, I would say, but both accidental, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's actually spot on. And I kind of, I think it's a term we use quite often, and we see with a number of investor clients who are coming in. And I actually was a bit of that as well. So I initially started my property journey when I landed. I mean, I grew up in India and came to the UK about 15 years ago, where my wife forced me to kind of go for the first property because she didn't want to be paying rent. And I think in some ways I had kind of owed to her. So we basically moved from a studio rented flat to a larger, very nice new bed, one flat, and was saving money because we were actually paying less mortgage than the rent we were paying. And eventually ended up having to upgrade because we were expecting our first child. And at that point, I think we met some really nice people or advisors where basically they helped us with leveraging money from our one-bed flat to buy our now family home, which is 5 or 6 bedroom. So essentially, actually ended up keeping both the properties and didn't pay a penny from my pocket to move from a one-bed flat to a 5-bed house, which is where my interest really kind of kicked off into property investing, because I was like, well, this is cool. I don't actually have to pay, but I'm actually now making money. And this was, and the funny thing was, around that time I was speaking to all the major lenders. Everybody said you must sell your property flat, and then and you're only going to be able to get X amount of money, because that's how they look at the mortgages and everything. But I then spoke to some very nice mortgage advisor who actually helped me structure this deal in the right way. So I think it's quite important to talk to the right people, to be listening to people who've done it before. And in some ways, I really appreciate that you guys are actually doing this series, because that allows people who are in that part of their journey where they can actually listen in to other people's experiences and actually understand that there's no like one size fits all solution. There's always a way to actually get the things done in a much better way. And I think we've never looked back since then. We've been investing in all sorts of properties, HMOs and buy-to-lets, shared ownerships and all sorts of things. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a long journey, but been very fruitful.
Well, I am no accidental property professional. I am a property professional by design, and it's now nearing 2 decades I've spent in real estate, mostly on the private equity side and on the big transaction side. But I get what you're saying, and that was one of the reasons why we started this series, is because there are a lot of webinars and property shows which talk about what they're trying to offer to consumers, but there's very limited information about if someone wanted to start a journey, and they would want to hear from 10 different people as to what their experiences were, and then decide the future course of action. That's how we came across the idea of setting up this show.